people need no introduction. So, let's bring them out. Alana Haim, Paul Thomas Anderson.
PTA!
Rock and roll!
Oh no, we're sharing a mic. We're sharing a mic. We're sharing one.
Yeah, or I could just hit a new mic.
No. We can share.
All right, so let's go back. Like you were saying, Paul, that I think a few years ago, you told Alana, I'm gonna write a movie, and you're gonna be in it. Like, so where did that impulse come from?
Well, first of all, my heart is bursting right now. Thank you guys. But about 4 or 5 years ago, I just had a moment where a lot of different things came together, where I was lucky enough. I had this great idea about 20 years ago, and it was just a small idea. I'd seen this kid trying to get a date with a girl. He was clearly in junior high, and she was working at Picture Day, and I was like, oh, that's a good idea for a movie. Did nothing with it, and always thought about it from time to time. And then I have this great friend, Gary Gessman. I have all his stories that are collected here. He owned a waterbed company. He's a child actor. He started a pinball company. And then I've been working with Alana and Danielle and SD for a number of years. I had 3 things together that seemed to make perfect sense. And I remember looking at Alana, like, saying, I think I have a movie that we're going to make one day. And she kind of looked at me like I was a little bit like, okay, yeah, right. And then I went and wrote it, and here we are. It's really kind of that simple and that complicated.
So you went and wrote it, you emailed it to Alana.
Yeah.
She, as I understand, you're in London, you're jet lagged, you just landed, you get this email, like you open it up and it's a script and it's like, oh, there's a character named Alana. That's interesting. But you didn't necessarily think that that was going to be you playing Alana. Maybe just Paul named the character Alana.
Of course. I mean, maybe I'm just, I don't know, gullible. I have no idea. I just had no clue. It went completely over my head when I got this script. And one of the first names on the page was my name, and I was just so excited that Paul was going to use my name. I was like,
It's a great name.
I mean, I like my name. I don't know if it's a great name, but I like it. It was given to me. As Danielle, my sister, named me. Danielle's here. She's going to love that. So overwhelmed by the energy right now. It's very infectious. Yeah, so I got this email from Paul, and I was so excited because I just love when Paul sends me things, and I saw my name, and I read the script. I remember reading it. I think I read it 3 times that night, and I called Paul, and he thought that I was crazy because it was I think it was like 4 or 5 in the morning in London time. And I just loved it so much. I had never read a script before. Period. I don't get sent scripts ever because I'm in a band. And I just thought, like, if reading these words on this page, I don't know how to read a script, but it was so exciting. It was such a page turner, and I just knew that if it was this exciting, I wanted to watch it. And I remember calling him and being like, I can't wait to see this movie. And then us having the conversation of, well, would you want to play Alana? And of course, I was like, yeah. I would love to. And that's kind of where the journey began. I mean, immediately I was like, what did I get myself into? I'd never acted before. This is the first script I've read. I have no idea what I'm doing, but luckily I had Paul to cheer me on, which was great.
Yeah.
Yeah! Woo!
And the journey, like, I mean, it really began many years before that, where Paul, you're at a party, you're talking about these sisters who are in a band in the valley that you really like. And it's like, somebody at the party goes, I know them. And you're like, okay, well, here's my email, give them my email. So you, Alana, and your sisters, you get the email. How long did it take you to email Paul and go, hey?
Many, many days. I didn't know, what do you say? Like, we have Paul Thomas Anderson's email, and we have to email him, like, do we start with hi? Do we start with hey? Do we start with hello there? How do we jump into this? And I think after 3 days, we finally concocted this email that was, I think it just said, hi, we're Haim, hello. Is this the right Haim that you want to talk to? I think that was the initial correspondence with Paul, and yeah, that's kind of where it happened.
But the thing that you don't know, Paul, is that there's a connection with the family that goes back many, many years before that.
See, so my mother, who is also in the film, and also my dad, my angelic mother, who is, I mean, she is an angel. I love my mom. When she moved from Philadelphia to LA, she got a job at the Buckley School, and as an art teacher, and one of her students was Paul Thomas Anderson. I say your full name every time I tell this story. I say Paul Thomas Anderson. I don't know. It's weird. I'm nervous. There's so many people here. Goodness gracious, Great Balls of Fire.
That's what your mom called him in school, though.
Paul Thomas Anderson, yes. But my mom taught Paul, and so it kind of felt like we were orbiting around Paul my whole life. My mom, every time we saw one of Paul's movies on the TV, she'd always say, I taught him, and for the longest time we thought she was lying. Honestly, there's not that much evidence that you can find that my mom taught Paul. And when we initially wrote this email, we said maybe we shouldn't tell Paul, because in school I didn't have very inspiring teachers. And I'm like, what if he hated mom? I mean, it's so impossible to hate my mom. It's like almost impossible to hate my mom, but what? I don't know. We don't know. And we showed up to Paul's house, and we made a sister pact, like, if it comes up naturally in the conversation, we'll say, maybe we'll mention it. We'll mention mom, who was Donna Rose at the time. She hadn't even met my father. And Essie walked through the door. My eldest sister had said, hello, my name is Essie Haim. My mother talked to you. My mother taught you. And both me and Danielle were like, God, we've been here for 4 minutes. It lasted 4 minutes. And Paul asked who my mom was, because, I mean, Buckley, you have to understand at that point there was, gray-haired, older women teaching, and my mom was young and had beautiful brown flowing hair. Her favorite thing was she would always talk about how she brought a record player to school. She always loved playing records for all of her students and kind of let them run free. And so we said, my mom was Donna Rose. And Paul went into his son's bedroom and pulled out this canvas that was the Mountains of the Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And he said, I painted this with your mom. And your mom was an amazing teacher, and that was the beginning of our journey on this thing. It's very weird. I feel like our paths were destined to cross, but it didn't happen until way later in life, and that's how we kind of started working together, it's crazy. I pinch myself every day. I don't know how it all happened, but it did.
And here we are.
And here we are.
What's the first scene? What's the first few days. You've got a couple of actors, Paul, that haven't really worked, haven't never been in a movie before. How do you break them in? How do you just like ease them into filmmaking?
Well, we started by doing a series of tests with Alana and Cooper. And obviously, Alana's never acted before, Cooper's never acted before. And so we took little baby steps in. So we went to a diner called Wexler's Deli in Woodland Hills. And we took over a little corner and we shot some scenes there. We didn't close the deli down or anything like that, just to sort of give a nice environment. And they did great. And then we did another test at the school for costumes and hair, and they did great. And then the first day of shooting was the Bradley Cooper scene, where Bradley Cooper walks out, and they froze. They completely froze. And that was exactly right, because they were able to kind of bond together. You know, Cooper had to spend the first day being screamed at by Bradley Cooper, dominated by him. And the second day, Alana had to get in this truck with cameras and lights and all this sound equipment and gear attached to it, and she had to drive through the Tarzana Hills and improvise as Bradley Cooper is not only berating her, but then also coming on to her. And so they had this incredible trial by fire that connected them together as starting the movie as novices, you know, being with a very seasoned actor who's incredibly skilled. And it brought them together. And then by the time those 5 or 6 days were over and they'd been absolutely terrorized by Bradley Cooper, they were really ready. They were not freezing. They were they had confidence, and they saw his focus as well, and it rubbed off on them. And I think it inspired them. And about a week into the movie, we had to do, because of the schedule, we had to do the scene where they have this big fight, which says, you know, you're talking about pinball machines and I'm a politician. We did that about a week or 10 days into the movie, and it was a scene that they had nobody else to rely on. They only had each other to rely on, and the words that they were saying to each other. And they had to do a scene that takes place late in the film, early in the process. So that's very challenging. You know, that requires that you have to kind of get into a certain headspace, and they did it, and they did it incredibly well. And you could see this, like, you know, concentration that they had, and you could see this kind of like relief getting to the end of that day that they had survived it. And not only that they survived it, but they'd survived it and done really incredibly well. And then the amazing thing about the movie, with the schedule of the movie, was that as soon as they got confident, they were like right back into some situation where they were tested again. You know, suddenly Cooper's on one side of the room and Alana's with Sean Penn and Tom Waits and being seduced by Sean Penn. Or they were face to face with Harriet Harris, who plays the agent, you know, and then they're sort of looking at Harriet Harris like, that's what acting really is. But all the while they were doing what they needed to do and being incredible, honestly. By the time we finished shooting the movie, they had wings and they were fine. It was kind of incredible to watch. Yeah.
What do you remember about this trial? Was there ever a time when you were making this movie, Alana, that you felt like, okay, nailed it, I got this, like, or, yeah.
No, I don't think ever in life I've ever been like, nailed it. Killed it, moving on, next chapter. No, but I love new adventures, and this was an incredibly epic new adventure in my life. I mean, even talking about we have to talk about the second day of shooting. I was in that truck. I mean, which was the craziest adventure. I mean, getting that over with in the first week, honestly, was the biggest blessing. I was actually very happy. I was terrified in the beginning, but I was very happy to, you know, start off driving in reverse, trying to put that truck in reverse. But no, I mean, every day was insane. I mean, the movie is insane. There's so many different twists and turns, and you never kind of know what's going to happen next, which is great. And that's kind of how it felt every day. I just showed up did try to do my best, and that's all you can do, and editing does the rest. I will say.
Did you and Cooper like talk at the end of the day, or like kind of commiserate on how things were going? Because I mean, you were talking about like being bonded after being terrorized by Bradley Cooper.
Oh yeah, no, we were a team after Bradley Cooper. Bless his soul, he was. I mean, thankfully after a couple of days, he kind of ended up being like, "Sorry, I've been this person for the last couple of days," and we were like, "No, it was good." But no, we were a team, and not to say that like every day we called each other and we were like, "Was I terrible?" Because I was terrible. He was like, "No, I was terrible." I was like, "No, it was me, it's my fault. I tripped over you, it's fine." But no, I mean, I don't know one person that's 100% confident all the time. Who's 100% confident all the time? Not me. But I had a blast doing it, which is great.
And it had to be, I mean, to have the relationship with Paul over all these years had to give you some just like, I'm in good hands.
Of course. Oh my God, are you kidding me? I mean, he's sitting right next to me.
Woo!
The best hands of all time. I mean, I wouldn't have been able to do this if it wasn't for Paul. I mean, I have never acted before. Again, had never read a script before. I was like, not even a little bit. I mean, the closest thing I ever got was doing high school plays. And I think when it was presented to me, working with Paul and doing music videos, I mean, it's the craziest having someone that just wholeheartedly supports you no matter what, and having that person that's like, no, you can do this. It's very rare. I mean, I have been in music for a very long time, and it's very rare to find someone that's like, no, you can do this, because like, you get a lot of like, you can't do this, a lot. And to have someone to be like, you can, is rare, and to have that in Paul, I wouldn't be able to do without him. So I'm very happy about it.
What? So having been in music for a long time, what do you think about, we were talking in the lobby about needle drops.
Oh yeah.
What do you think about Paul's use of music in this movie?
Well, actually, funny enough, how I got introduced to Paul was me and my siblings have like a sister tradition that when you turn 16, your older sibling, so Esty started it, then Danielle did it for me, but Esty, when Danielle turned 16, she went to Second Spin, which was a record store on Ventura Boulevard. I don't know if anyone's ever been there. Oh, lots of kids. So the Second Spin and got Danielle a stack of records, and one of them was the Boogie Nights soundtrack. So actually, me getting introduced to Paul, I honestly thought that he was a musician. I didn't know what Boogie Nights was. I mean, I was very young at that point. I was like 13, and I was like, oh, this is cool. I didn't even know Boogie Nights. I thought Boogie Nights was just a really cool compilation track. I was like, this is cool. So I've always been a fan of Paul. Paul introduced me to Melanie. That was the first time I ever heard Brand New Key, was from the Boogie Nights soundtrack. So yeah, I mean, come on, the music is incredible. I mean, Paul, you're the best music supervisor I've ever met in my whole life, goddamn. But yeah, no, I'm talking about needle drops. I had never heard the term. I'm in the movies now, guys. The closest thing I got to the movies was the Universal Backlot tour. I don't know about anything. And it's a great tour. That was my dream first drop. I'm not kidding. Yeah, no, I had never heard the term needle drop before, but now that I'm in the movies, I understand what that means.
When we were talking earlier, Paul, a month ago, about like earning the right to use a song in a movie, and I think we were talking about like the Bowie song, which is obviously such a big song. But then I saw the movie a second time, and then I was thinking about the McCartney song, Let Me Roll It, which is just like this, such a big moment in the film and with the two characters. How did you land on that particular song?
Well, how did I not land on that particular song is the question, because it's fucking great. It's a great song. Has anybody seen Get Back?
Yeah!
the most, it's a really Beatles song. Let Me Roll It. It's like,
You know,
it's like
apparently,
he's doing John
I was
Lennon.
just reading this thing. He said he was trying to do a John song. He's like, I kind of made it sound like a John song, and I did this. There's something with the EQ that he did. He tried to make it that John loved. I can't remember what they called it, but they called it anyway. And I think, or at least the way that the folklore goes, is that it is like he was trying to make peace. Like, let me roll this joint, and I'm gonna try to, and we can smoke it together. We can talk about the old times, and we can try and make peace to each other. And that's a great way to look at it through the Beatles filter. But I've always thought it was an incredibly intimate and romantic song. And so it fit good with two people laying on a waterbed who from Gary's point of view, he wants to do something, but he can't do something, or he can't find the courage to do something. And it's the first time in the movie where a song plays with nothing else, absolutely nothing else happening. I thank God it's Paul McCartney playing Let Me Roll It, because it sounds really good, especially in a movie theater, coming like loud through the speakers. Yeah, amazing to mix it. When you're sort of standing on a big stage or finishing a movie, you think like, this sounds pretty good. Who did this song?
I'm just curious, how many people here in this theater have seen this movie more than once? A lot of them close to the stage. How many? This is interesting. How many people are 21 and under? Yeah, a little youngins. Yeah. We're talking about like influences for this film. And one was like Fast Times. I remember you mentioned that. I think he would have been like 13, right?
I was 13 or 14 when Fast Times came out.
How did you see it?
I snuck into the theater. I snuck into, and I got caught, actually. I got snuck into the Pacific 4 at the Sherman Oaks Galleria. Fuck yeah, whoever. Let's go fucking out for a drink after.
Yeah! Woo!
I snuck into at the Galleria to see it, where it was shot as well, and I got fucking nabbed. I got the hand on the shoulder, like, you're not supposed to be in here, and I got taken out. And then I did it again, and I didn't get caught, and I saw it all the way through. And I, it's a classic. It's a classic that stuck with us. For anybody that loves movies, or even if you just kind of like movies, you love Fast Times. And American Graffiti is the other movie that obviously...
Yeah!
Those two movies are the touchstones. If you're going to make a movie about what it feels like to be a teenager or to be, struggling through adolescence, those are the two movies. Dazed and Confused would be the other one. And so you're making a movie, and you're aware of those other films, and you're aware of them, especially when you're writing them or before you start it, and then you try not to think about them, and you do your own thing and you tell your story. But you know in the back of your mind that if you can reach to the heights that those kinds of films got to, then you might be doing a good thing. So those, it's okay to try and reach for that. Great films.
Did you talk to the cast about that kind of?
I'll tell you what I did. I'll tell you, this is a very important thing, because all the young actors in the movie, not just Alana and Gary, but all their buddies and Gary's buddies, a lot of them are friends of my daughter's. I showed them American Graffiti, and the reason why I showed them American Graffiti was in the first 2 minutes of American Graffiti, Charles Martin Smith crashes his moped into a line of newspaper stands, right? And it's a complete accident. It is an accident. It's like one of those classic moments where he completely wipes out, but he doesn't stop acting. So I showed it to all these kids, and I said, this is very important for you to watch, because notice that he doesn't stop acting, and if the accidents happen while we're making this movie, you have to just stick with it, keep acting. This is really important. And so they took that in, but they also ended up watching American Graffiti, and they loved it, and it became this kind of template, anyway, that's the story. Yeah.
Did any accidents happen in the making of this movie, Alana, where you have to just like keep acting?
Funny enough, yes. There were many happy accidents. Well, you're already laughing. Funny enough, I think it was day 2 of the shoot, so I had seen American Graffiti. I had Paul's, you being like, I've never acted before, I'm gonna take Paul's word as Bible and just keep going. And I was driving, I had Bradley Cooper Hoffman, my best friend, and myself, and I had to drive this truck through the Tarzana Hills. And I guess I was riding the clutch too hard, because I had to learn how to drive stick shift. Also, just, I'm a terrible driver, and I don't think Bradley Cooper knew that, but I knew that. And so I think I was riding the clutch too hard, and something had popped in the engine, and smoke had filled in the cab, but I didn't know that. I thought I was like, oh, this is supposed to happen. This is one of those tricks that they do in the movies, where something goes crazy and I'm being tested. And so I have that scene from American Graffiti playing over and over in my mind, and I go, you gotta keep going, you gotta keep going. And the whole cab is filling with smoke. And unfortunately, because I had a walkie-talkie that, people could talk to me, but I turned it off because I was like, I gotta be focused. So I'm driving, smoke, filling. And finally, Bradley Cooper goes, is that normal? And I just go, in my mind, I go, wow, acting. Incredible. I go, what do I say to that? I have to improv here. I go, yes. And we're driving, Bradley Cooper goes, are you sure that's normal? Like, wow, he's a professional. And me and Cooper are both like, we know what's going on. This is real. And finally, after 3 more minutes of me driving, we finally end the road. I park and I put it in park. I turn the car off. I look over and I'm like, oh, that was incredible. I look back and I see Paul in the fall van going, get out of the van! Get out! And I turn back and Bradley Cooper and Cooper are gone. Asking me this beautiful take where I go, God, acting. And then I run out of the van. Everything was fine, but happy accident. I almost killed everybody in the car, but it's okay. We ended up surviving.
It wasn't dangerous.
I'm dramatic.
That American Graffiti screening, that had some impact, clearly. Yeah. Okay, how are we on time? Shout it out. 5, 2, I'm blind.
5 more
Okay,
minutes.
okay,
You guys
okay.
have come a long way. We don't want to keep it too
I forgot to mention to you, I'm kind of blind, so I can't see you over there. What I love about this, another thing, okay, so you guys are shooting this during the shitty year that we had, but it turned out okay for this, we're here tonight, but the family dinner scene, which is one of my favorite scenes in the movie, I mean, that's like the first time you saw your parents, like in person. Is that true?
Taking the microphone away from you. Whoa. It is true. I mean, we had...
That's crazy.
I know, but we had an incredible COVID team that kept us safe, and we had protocols, but it was so great to have my family in the same room doing a Shabbat scene. That is a true story, by the way. My middle sister had a boyfriend. It was Passover, it wasn't Shabbat, that's the real story. And she had brought her boyfriend at the time, he's not her boyfriend anymore. And he had, my father had asked him to read the Haggadah, and he refused because he was an atheist. And it was... You can imagine how awkward it was, but it was even more awkward than what was on the screen. And it was just this family tale that we would tell all the time that would make us laugh. And I remember telling Paul the story and then reading the script and being like, huh, well, now it's gonna be in our lives forever. It's a great story, and my dad is so funny, and I'm so happy that you guys got to see my dad act for the first time. He's also never acted before. And I'm so happy I have this snapshot of time that I can, watch all over and over again of me and my family having a Shabbat dinner.
I guess that's such an interesting thing about this movie. It's just the people who haven't acted a whole lot, young and old, working against Sean Penn and Bradley Cooper. And I mean, it's such a mix of, you really mix this cast up. And the other thing that you were telling is just like, and it feels like, I mean, I guess it's like this scene that you're just describing. The whole movie though has that feel of like a home movie. Like, this is what you did I guess it was what, late summer, early fall?
Yeah. We were meant to start the movie in May. It was going to be our summer movie that we were all going to do. So then March came around and we stopped. And the first opportunity that we had to do it was in August, and we started back up. Full steam ahead, just trying to figure out how we could pull it off. And the amazing thing was that, normally you make a film and you have scenes with a large series of background actors and to help you do it. And we did from time to time employ background actors, at the teenage fair but at the high school, we had 100 kids and we knew every single one of them. We knew every single one of their names. We knew their parents. We knew where they were going to go after school, after we shot, and how it was going to go. And we were able to keep a very, very tight group together at this very precarious and peculiar time. Kind of amazing the way that all worked out. And it was always sort of meant to be that, but that there was a certain point where we were all in this life raft together, and trying to pull this thing off, which I look back and I think like, wait, why the fuck were we doing that? That's crazy. It's crazy that we did that. But I guess we felt such an impulse to finish what we planned on, and to have something to do, to have something to aim for, to have something to get up in the morning to do each day to keep us going. And I can't help but think that the film that we would have made would have been very good if we started in May, but I think the film that we made when we started in August is great, and that has to have contributed to it somehow.
I mean, you can't really, like, it's hard, how do you quantify it, but like when all of that is up there on the screen, you can really feel it, and I feel like that's why this theater is full tonight. This is just such an amazing sight.
Yeah.
Like, just to look out and see 1,400 people loving a movie.
This is really a dream come true. Honestly, I've been making movies for a while now, and I always want to have a movie play here. I wanted to have it play here, just like this. I had these fantasies that I would make a film, and it would play in one theater, and it would play in this theater, and it would play, and we could get everybody to come, and it would sound good, and it would look good, and we could show them a great time. And this has been happening now for about 3 weeks, and I fucking never gets old.
Yeah!
Thank you all for coming tonight. Thank you, Paul and Alana.